You are now listening to Failing Adds Up with your co-hosts, George Jr. Ibarra and Antonio Romero. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to another episode of the Failing Adds Up podcast. My name is Antonio Romero, and alongside with me, as always, on every single episode, I got
Junior Ibarra. Hello, everybody.
Hello. So, Junior, we got a little different setup today. So, we actually had our guest here reschedule on us, which is totally fine. They had some commitments they had to get to. So, we wanted to continue to. We brought up that if that does ever happen, that we will make sure that we still are continuing to push out content for you guys all the time, right, Junior?
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where, one of the hardest things when doing a podcast like this and you're interviewing people that are succeeding at life or just, taking everything by storm, it's scheduling conflicts happen, right? And so instead of getting out of rhythm, we wanted to just continue to honestly just talk about what's happening in our entrepreneurship lives and share some of the failures that happen day to day because, every single day we're doing some of that stuff. So one of the topics I kind of want to hit on, it's kind of been like hitting some of my RAS, my reticular activating system, right? Which is like, that's the way I like to tell that story is like, if you were to go out and actually buy a blue Jeep and you didn't own a blue Jeep before, and you drive that blue Jeep off the lot and start driving down the street, what do you start noticing?
Other blue Jeeps,
right? And so right now my RAS is up on, there's a lot of conversation happening around repetition and like what repetition does for your life or in business. So I kind of want to ask you, Antonio, like, there's a lot of things that as entrepreneurs we learn in the beginning, they're uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. Like things are uncomfortable. I don't know what it is, whether it's public speaking, being on social media.
Because you're not used to it, right? You feel out of place almost.
Yeah. So what are things that you were uncomfortable doing when you were, beginning as an entrepreneur, yet through repetition, it's now become like comfortable?
Yeah, it's a really great, interesting question. I feel like, at least coming from the real estate world, it's a little different for me because before I got into real estate, I did work at a call center. I didn't work there for a long time, but I worked there for a few months. So I was already used to making calls. But I feel like just trying to go off that topic is probably something that is very hard at first for most new agents is making the calls and reaching out to their database. And maybe that's where it comes to for me is when I got into real estate, it did feel weird. I felt out of place. I felt a bit uncomfortable reaching out to friends or reaching out to people that I knew from high school or past coworkers and reaching out to them about like, hey, I'm a realtor now. I can help you get into a home. And I think it came from the spot of like, I don't know. I just felt weird asking or like telling people like I didn't want to come off as that salesy person of like, hey, look at me. I can help you buy a house. I felt a little weird with that at first.
Yeah. So then when you were making those, I'm curious now. So, we're on the real estate topic, kind of the real estate advisor, real estate agent kind of role. So you came in, you didn't maybe even know that it's not like HGTV, right? Where people just say, hey, I breed parakeets for a living, and I like looking at sunflowers. Go find me a $2 million house, right? It's not like that.
It's not.
Okay.
Not nothing. Sure? Nothing at all like that.
Okay. So damn it, there goes my parakeet career lifestyle that I was shooting for. But so anyhow, so what is it that you had to do? So it sounds like calling was one of those things where at first it was uncomfortable because sounds like you didn't want to come off as like a salesman, right? Like
it wasn't not necessarily making the calls. It was making the calls to specific people.
Okay.
It was making the calls to like friends or family because in my head also in like we're taking a class called Bold, right? Mm-hmm. Where they have these bold laws and it's about your mindset and shifting and all these great things, but they say they call it your drunk monkey, and that's just like limiting beliefs. That's just your mindset that you have on or your thoughts that you have on certain things. So for me, it came from a spot of like, well, they know, like my friends and family know I got into real estate, so they should just reach out to me because they already know I'm in it. And that was kind of like a mindset shift I had to make, but because not just because they know you're in real estate means they're going to reach out to you to help them in real estate. And to stay on course of the conversation we're having, it was for me more of like, I felt a little uncomfortable reaching out to friends and being like, hey, I can help you with real estate, because I just wasn't used to reaching out to my friends and family about those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when did it get comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it came down to the point where I was consistently making those calls every day, not just to friends and family, but just to everyone. And I think that's what helped me, is making those calls to random strangers, to finally getting comfortable with making the calls to the random strangers, that I was like, well, now I could call friends and family, which is really weird, right? If you think about it, you would think it'd be reversed. You would think you would be okay with calling friends and family over calling strangers. But I had that mindset of like, well, because they're strangers, I'm never going to see them, or I'm never going to talk to them.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure there's other people out there that probably are the inverse of you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
They're like, they get the fear of calling a stranger because they don't know them versus calling their peers or their family or friends. So I'm curious to know then, what's for all of the, I'm sure we have real estate agents out there, or followers too, or just anyone in real estate, or anyone in the industry where you're reaching out to your circle of influence, or friends or family, or even strangers. Like, what's one of your go-to scripts for when you're making those calls?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does depend on like the person that you're calling, because everyone has different needs. So if it was like trying to hit it home for you, since I was afraid of, I don't want to use afraid because I wasn't afraid, but since I felt uncomfortable with sometimes making calls to those friends or family, most of the time it was like, hey, I'm just checking in, because like, when was the last time I called you just to call you? Literally never, right? Which just sounds bad. Like I should be checking in on family and friends. So at first it did just come from that spot of like, hey, just checking in. Like, it's been a minute. We haven't connected. How's work going? How's the family? How's, any vacations are going on? We call it the Ford script, which is family, occupation, recreation, or dreams. So that's, I feel like, is a very easy script or model to follow if you are in the relationship-based businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you hit on family, occupation,
recreation,
dreams, right? That's anybody, like you're literally getting to talk about them and all the stuff that's going on in their lives, which is fun to hear about anyway, right? So it's cool to, like, that's a very easy conversation. Right?
Yeah, because everyone has family, everyone has occupation where they work, everyone likes to have fun and do things for recreation, and most people have dreams.
Yeah.
So it's an easy way to have that conversation continue to flow, because once you talk about one of them, you can go straight on to the next one.
Yeah. And since we're hitting on that topic, so for a time there it was uncomfortable, then it became comfortable. That's just like with anything, even in sports, right? Like when we first started playing soccer, like kicking the ball, right, was uncomfortable. I coach my son now in soccer, and so I see how uncomfortable it is for these 5 and 6 year olds to, like,
they completely miss the ball.
Yeah, or like they want to hit the ball with their toe, and we know that that's not the way you hit it. And so it's cool to kind of see that from this perspective now, being a father, because you're like, you can see them learning just by doing more repetition.
Yeah.
So I guess in your story, do you remember when it became comfortable, or was it just enough repetition where eventually, naturally, it was comfortable?
Exactly. I think it was more of that. It was like, just with the repetition, it's not like a moment that you have where you're like, whoa, I can do it now. It was more of like just continuously doing it time after time after time after time, that it just, at some point I was like, oh, wow, well, I've been doing it. Cool. Like, I don't know. Yeah. For me, I didn't have that sort of moment. It was just like, just doing it, I felt more and more comfortable each time.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, for our followers out there, like, that's what happens and with almost anything in life, right? No matter what you're doing. And so repetition is key, right? And kind of the inner lining with that is, ties to our failing adds up concept, right?
And I love, one time you told me too, like, and please correct me, but I think you said talent, or sorry, no. What was it? Damn it. It was that consistency will always beat out talent, right? Hard work will always beat out talent.
Absolutely. I always say that, like, consistency and hard work will always beat talent. Yet talent with consistency and hard work, that's like out of this world amazing and take over the world like domination, right? So yet I see it's kind of sad though. You also see it, and I'm sure you're starting to see it, like being mentors or coaching others or just seeing others going after something that have a extreme amount of talent, yet lack the discipline and that consistency, and then they just give up.
And that's why not everyone can do it, right? Because you can have some things and you're not the full package.
Yeah. I believe if you have that consistency and that discipline to stick with that consistency, almost everything else can be taught, coached, or mentored, depending on what industry you're in, because you can like seek that advice from others that already know how to do it, right?
So you feel like the discipline and consistency part is probably the hardest out of the equation?
Absolutely. Yeah, like staying consistent, staying disciplined is one of the hardest things to do in life, because we're all humans. People get bored. One of my mentors says, if you want to succeed, get used to boredom. And so, and that's the secret of success is long-term consistency, long-term discipline versus chasing, either one, not doing it and then just failing, or, time is the best investment you can make to succeed. Yet if you go chase this new squirrel or this new little shiny star over here or that little shiny star over there, or you switch industries, you're restarting over from scratch, essentially, right? Because to master any skill, they talk about how you have to, if I remember right, again, this was in a book, so I can't remember, yet I believe it's an investment of 10,000 hours to master any one skill, right? So I think
Bruce Lee said that, actually.
Is that who, yeah,
I believe so.
Maybe Bruce Lee. I've read it in multiple books and things of that magnitude say. But yeah, if you're like mastering, say, calling, real estate, either strangers or, past clients, friends or family, and you invested 7,000 hours and you're finally like comfortable, and now no matter what objection they throw at you or conversation or whatever over the phone, you're able to like pitch it back to them, right? But now you shift to another industry, you just started over at 0 hours, right? So it's just, again, the consistency and discipline will definitely beat talent long term if talent doesn't learn how to stay consistent and stay disciplined.
And I've, like, over the past few years here that I've gotten to know you, I feel like you're so good about being disciplined and being consistent. So, like, what advice or tips do you have for the people listening of, like, what they can implement into their life to also assure that they're consistent and disciplined? Or, like, what do you do to do that?
Yeah, and trust me when I say this, it's hard, right? Like, I mean, yeah, you're always, what reminds me is, again, my mentors, just like kind of like I mentor you, right? Or the other people on our team. It's the same like they're reminding me all the time, like stick with it, consistency, discipline. So having that accountability culture and that accountability environment definitely helps, and also just kind of having a roadmap, right? And so that even goes to the extreme of what's your roadmap for today? What's your roadmap for tomorrow, right? And just like we wake up every single day and we brush our teeth, right? That's consistency and discipline so that we don't lose our teeth, right?
Yeah.
There's a process for it. And so, again, same thing with daily routines. There's a process for it. So I think everybody should have a process for the things that matter in life. So, like you call it the 4 Fs or whatnot, family, faith, finances, and fitness. Like, what's your process for each of those? We always talk about how everybody has a process for, say, finances or business, right? Like, it's like, I got to make this number of calls so I can make this amount of appointments that generate this many clients that generate this amount of income, or whatever your industry is. Your numbers. Yet, do you actually have a process for your family, right? So in my case, every single morning I do my affirmations with my kids, right? So that they know what they start off the right mindset, right? And so they always say, you know, even my 2-year-old, my Xavier, will say, I am smart, I am strong and healthy, I love my family, I like to make friends, and I like to have fun. And then he yells in like a big, like dinosaur voice, like, I'm going to have a great day.
Just like you would, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's our discipline of starting off the day with the right mindset, right? And same thing with like having date nights with my wife, right? Like, it's important for us because right now we have a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old, just to have that discipline to like stay engaged in adult conversations with, you know, one of the most important people in my life, which is my wife, right? And so all of those things compound in itself, just like they do in the business world, right? Like what's your fitness routine? You know, you and I work out Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 a.m., right? Things of that magnitude. What is it in finances? Like I have a very disciplined routine that every time my check deposits on a Friday, it deposits into the main account, and immediately, as soon as it hits my account, it goes into different buckets. You know, my investing account, my savings account, my my fund money account. You know, the grocery account. It literally disperses into different buckets.
World Cup bucket, right?
I do have a World Cup bucket, so because I can't wait to travel around the U.S. and North America when the World Cup happens. You know, so there's a system for everything, and that consistency over time compounds itself to be able to, you know, make strides in life or in business or in finances or in back to kind of how we started it. It's the repetition, right?
Yeah.
That can help you go down that path.
That for sure like enlightened me, and I hope it did to others too, because like you just explained, there's systems and processes for every single thing that you do in your life, which can sound a little like, I don't know, that can sound a little daunting because you're like, I have to create a system for everything I do, but it keeps you in track of where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I learned that too. Like, is actually at a sermon. My pastor is like, you guys have systems for everything. And this was as of recent. I'm like, because I do, you know, my family, if it's important in your life, you should have some kind of system, right? Or else you're like, where am I going? Like, right? If you don't know where you're going,
what should I do?
What should I do? You're like, you know, your body, when the body doesn't know what it needs to do, you're like thoughts get in your head, or it's a fear of flight mode, you know? So yeah, even that, you know, so again, like, you know, for faith now I'm like, you're right. We kind of do, we kind of don't. But now my wife and I established, quote unquote, a system for our faith, you know? So, we pray with the kids before they go to bed. We pray with them, you know, right before we eat food. And then we made it a point this year to not miss, you know, Sunday church, to get at least that, you know, a little bit of that from the pastor, right? So again, anything that truly matters in your life, whether doesn't have to, you know, if you're not a faith-based person or whatnot, yet you're like, I want to hit this level of income or this level of investment or this level of passive income or this level of followers, whatever it is, what's the system for it? What's the process? And where do you want to go, right? Because if you don't know where you're going, you're literally going to get lost.
You're walking blindly, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just blind in the dark.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this, because on this topic is like, what are you doing now that's uncomfortable in your life?
That's a good question. I'm not too sure. I mean, there's a lot going on right now, especially with like, you know, real estate is my main thing that I focus on throughout the day. And then obviously have the podcast stuff, and then have, you know, some other things on the side that I slowly build up. And I think that's the cool aspect that we have on the show, is that I come from the younger side, and you're not necessarily old, but you're obviously older than me.
Call
but
me old.
I'm not.
You just call me old.
You're old compared to me. Maybe?
Millennial, Gen Z.
Millennial and Gen Z. You're like 32, right? So you're not old. You're still very young.
Yeah, I still beat you at ping pong.
Okay. But that's the like it's cool because like in a sense I'm growing through the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Like one day here in like 10, 15 years, we're going to look back and I'm going to look at myself when I was 22, which is just crazy to think about. And, you know, I guess like one thing like right now is I feel like I'm getting dragged in all these different directions, which I love because I just can't sit still. Like you know me, I cannot. I'm constantly having to move, constantly having to do. Even like just sitting and listening to someone, I'm always like fidgeting. I'm like moving my leg. I'm doing something at all times. So it helps me to come from that spot of like doing a lot of things at once, not necessarily, or yeah, kind of like at once, like being versatile. But it can get a bit dangerous, is what I've been noticing, is because getting dragged in all these directions, you have to be very purposeful about your time and that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to do it.
Yeah. So you're uncomfortable right now in learning how to stay disciplined.
Yeah.
And looking from the outside in on what you just said, right? Because there's a lot. You're getting the shiny star stuff getting put in front of you.
Yeah, it's just focusing on like the true like things. Like when it comes to real estate, like at this point, I know at like the back of my hand, super comfortable. Like I can, like I just got it down. So when I'm doing real estate, I have to make sure I'm being purposeful about that time.
Yeah, which is cool. Again, you're way more disciplined than I was at 22. At 22, I just graduated college and I was looking for the next bar, right? Like I was going out 6 out of the 7 nights trying to, go party. And I know you like to hang out and stuff. Yet I wasn't as disciplined as you are. So you're already like, 8 to 10 years ahead of me when it comes to like being as focused as you are and what you're doing in the real estate space, in the podcast space, social media space, which is kind of so cool to see, and that's kind of one of the things. I love surrounding myself with all different age groups, because it's like you learn from each other, right? So like just as much, I learn a lot from you and, just everything that I see you do in the social media. You're the host, right? You're the main host for this podcast. This was your idea. And just being part of that is so much fun. Even learning recently Peso Pluma, I don't know, the first time I heard that name,
Who's this guy?
Who's this guy? I'm like, where's Biggie Smalls at? But no, just like, and then also, having my mentors who are older than me, and learning like their, even not just business stuff. It's cool to like even hit on music, and they've introduced me to some music that I wasn't familiar with.
Like 80s music, like
all that stuff. Yeah. So even the different like level, like the different things they drink, like I've learned things from that. So I don't know. So, maybe we got off on a tangent there, but yeah, reeling it back in, it's cool to see the people on our team kind of develop those habits, of discipline and consistency, and seeing the success that's coming from it at such a young age, is so cool to see. And it's amazing.
Dude, it's so tough with discipline and consistency because like, and maybe it's because the vision isn't shaped fully, but even for me, it's like, I know what I want. I know what I want to do. But even like sometimes at like 6 a.m., I still don't want to get up. I'm like, damn it, dude. And right? Like it's an ongoing thing.
It still happens to me every day. Not every day, but
right. It still happens.
It still happens. And I ask a 60-year-old mentor of mine, it still happens to him. From what I've heard, you never fully figure it out, right? You just evolve and things change and you change with it. Yet you have a lot of the core things that do stay consistent in your life. Like family and the goals you're going after in the business world, or acquiring X amount of passive income or net worth or whatever, that kind of doesn't move a ton, right, when you know what you're going after, right? So, but yeah, everybody, I think every human is always questioning, what am I supposed to do with my life, right?
Yeah.
And to this day, I still do that, and even I ask everyone else around me that's older than me, and they're still doing it. So I don't know, like it's just one of those things, like, and hoping to be around the people that can kind of align with your values so that you're going in a quote unquote similar direction. There's that saying that you become the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? So it's no coincidence that like over 60% of our team has literally no debt. Right? It's
That's
no
true.
coincidence that every single person on our team already started owning multiple properties or is on that path like you are, right? Like you're literally about to buy an investment property this year. Like I didn't even know what an investment property was at 22 years old, So it's cool to kind of see that evolve little by little. Yet I don't know if there's not a right or wrong way of how you're going to like tackle different goals in your life, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's another huge thing, like being in that space of like entrepreneurs, being in that space is like, if you're wanting to get into it, if you're wanting to get into real estate, you're wanting to get into financial services, entrepreneurial, whatever it is, right? Creating some sort of business. It's like, do not be afraid to ask for help from others. Because like with our team, that's where the power is. We always say the power of is within the people.
Yeah,
of the
power's
team.
with the people. Yeah.
And also like working together can just get you that much further.
Yeah. Yeah, as they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? And so, yeah, it's cool to kind of have that kind of culture within our team. And you can find that by seeking it, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
If you seek, you shall find. Is that? I don't know where that's
from. I
from.
think it's some sort of Bible verse.
Is that a Bible verse?
I think so. Like
sometimes I pull stuff that's in my brain that I've read or listened to, So
I think it's like if you ask, you shall receive.
Yeah,
sort.
So same concept, and that same thing. That's how I found my mentors. Like one of my mentors, I was looking for someone that could teach me how to do real estate, right? And so back then, you probably don't even know this, but there was this thing called Craigslist. Are you familiar with Craigslist?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used it.
Yeah, you used it. Okay, so I'm not that.
I knew it was. We buy cars on there and stuff.
There you go. Now it's like Facebook Marketplace or whatever, right?
Right.
But back then, there was no Facebook Marketplace. It was Craigslist. And I was like, I don't know, 26, right? Or whatever, somewhere around there, 25, 26, 27. And like I literally emailed. My assumption was if you had tons of listings on the Craigslist, like rentals or houses for sale, you were quote unquote an investor, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I wanted to go find someone that was doing it so that I could like learn from them. So I literally emailed like over 100 people, be like, I see you have multiple properties. Are you an investor, and would you sit down with me, so I could pick your brain? And out of those, like 6 said yes.
Out of like 100?
Yeah, like I can't remember. It was over 100. I just sent this copy paste email. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And then out of those 6, like 2 of them actually took me up on my coffee offer over the phone, right?
And you still talk to those 2,
and
right?
those are, I'm still in a relationship. One of them is my business partner, right?
Yeah.
So shout
you
out
guys
to Dave
buying
Ferris
investment properties, yeah.
buying investment properties.
And he was on the show as well.
And then the other one is out there still, like we do business together too. Not as much, yet he's still out there buying hundreds of properties. Yeah. So, so it's kind of crazy how, life happens sometimes. But if you look for it. So.
And I feel like that's more than important now, more powerful in today's world, especially with like AI. You can literally like ask it whatever you want. Yeah. Like the other day, actually like 2 days ago, I tested this just to I was just curious to see what would happen. Because we have like a CRM system where we have like all our leads in there, and then we can put notes in there and interactions and tasks and all this stuff. So I ended up having like 14 tasks to do. So I went on Chat GPT, and I was like, I have 2 hours to finish 14 tasks, which is a combination of phone calls, texts, and emails. And I will have to create a note description on each lead after my interaction. What's the best way of getting this done? And it literally created me plan by plan, minute by minute, on how to effectively get those 14 tasks done within 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was mind blown because it's just so crazy. Like with internet right now, with AI, where all of that is evolving to and going to, like more than ever, now you have like things at your fingertips. You read a book, you can go online, you can watch YouTube videos, you can watch TikTok videos. Like all of this information is just so attainable right now. It's going to be so crazy to see how people take advantage of that.
Yeah, a couple things that I guess from just hearing you talk about that, it's uncomfortable. AI is uncomfortable right now, but it will become comfortable through repetition, right? Like going back to how we started this episode. And then, reaching out to people like, I used Craigslist back in the day. Now you can literally potentially reach out to just people through TikTok, Facebook, whatever. Easily. Someone that you're like following and admire, and seeing if they're up for jumping on a Zoom or a call, or just even engaging via text back and forth or DM or whatever. So, we live in a really cool world, and so, ChatGPT is super impressive. I was just looking for content to create, to just, because we do some recordings, outside of this, that's to post on YouTube or whatever. And so I just asked it, like, what are the top 5 videos to create on YouTube that are real estate related? And it was just like, boom, boom, here's the most like sought out after. I'm like, so, and then I know our listing coordinator, right? Like Shannon, she's, uses it to now, she's like, it saves me a ton of time, instead of having to write out all the descriptions for the house. Right. She's just like, write out a description for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house that has a good size yard, and it'll write it out. And then you can even tell it, make it sound more fun, or make it sound more serious, or make it sound more luxurious, and it'll rewrite it. That's
so crazy.
And she just copy paste that into the description, so how much time is that saving us? And it's AI right now, like I said, it's like it's uncomfortable for me right now because I haven't used it enough yet. I think it's going to be part of everybody's lives, and it'll eventually get comfortable, just like everything else, social media and all that good stuff. So,
and it is like good and bad things too, right? Because like you mentioned, like creating descriptions, unfortunately, it is making humans uncreative. Like they no longer have to be creative to make a description, because you can just have it there. So there is some things where like that's where I'm seeing it from that aspect of like, where people say AI is going to take over, robots are going to take over, like iRobot and those type of movies, which it can, we got to be careful with it, because we can get dependent on AI, because I can easily see it 10, 15, 20 years from now where it's like second nature and no thought at all. You wake up, hey, whatever, AI, make me a cup of coffee, and it starts brewing your coffee, and then like heat up the shower for me, and like you're gonna use it for all these tasks throughout your day. That it's just we're gonna be so dependent on it.
I think it's good, and it's depending on how you do it. Like, so I would agree. Like I still grew up, and when my parents and I traveled, like my dad had the atlas or the map, and like where we were going, and we used maps to get to a destination. Nowadays, you don't do that, right? And I'm sure, like, I remember, like, when I first started to learn how to drive before GPS was, like, on your phone, you just knew where everything was in Des Moines. And so to kind of reiterate your statement, I think it kind of makes you dumber in that extent, because then, like, nowadays, even if I'm going, like, 2 miles away, I'll plug it into GPS, right? Because you're so reliant on technology.
Or you're driving home. You know how to get home, but, like, from certain parts of the town, you don't.
Yeah, back, when I was a teenager, it's just, I knew how to get home no matter where I was in Des Moines without using anything. Now it's like, I don't even know, like you just said, I don't even know how to get home just because I'm on this side of town or that side of town. So I agree with that, yet I think it opens up your brain to use that computer power. Like I was like, your brain is a computer, right? And computers have a certain capacity, right? So you're using X amount of capacity to run this computer, so X amount of capacity to run your brain. Now you're not having to use that to, go to a destination. So how are you utilizing that to do something else? I think the same thing with AI, like there's going to be a lot of things that we can utilize it for, and we may get a little dumber on that side of the brain or whatever, yet it might spur the other side of the brain to, be more creative, right? Yeah. And do things that a computer can't do. I think one of the things that I see trending out there is like younger generations actually do have trouble socializing with other humans, right? And I think as technology evolves and everyone is more reliant or glued to their faces, to their phones, and now AI and now social media and all this stuff that literally pulls you into a screen, the less repetition you're doing interacting with a real human. So I think those industries or those like jobs will actually get paid more over time if you know how to actually interact with another human. because that's also never going to go away, right? Or I hope not. Like then we're talking about Terminator, right? Like Terminator, so I think it, like, there's a lot of things that come down to being human to human.
They can't do the emotional piece, right?
Emotional and connect, like, the energy we're just now creating, and just by having this conversation, there's a lot of industry, real estate being one of those, and a lot of other things that involve human to human interaction. And I think those jobs, well, you'll actually get paid even more just being able to socialize with real humans versus a screen, right? So I don't know. That's just my theory. I could be completely wrong, So, damn, we talked about a lot of different things.
I know, right? We did.
Before we go off on any other tangents, man, I hope our followers are liking the kind of this back and forth. And again, we run into this stuff every single day, every single week. So it's fun to kind of even talk. I had a lot of fun. Did you have fun?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, is like we have so much going on a week to week basis, day to day basis, hour by hour basis, that I think we could talk about anything.
Yeah. Next time we'll talk about the Mario movie or something, right?
Oh, there you go.
That's making a comeback, which is cool because, again, I grew up with that, and now I get to see my son grow up with it.
Is it weird for you though? Because like I got the very end of that era, because my sister was born in the 90s. I was born in 2000, so she's a 90s baby, full on 90s baby, everything 90s, right? So TV shows and stuff like that, like she showed me all that when I was growing up. But is that weird for you? Like you were full on in it too, and now you're getting this like remake of it?
To me, it's awesome, so that's the word I put on it. It's kind of cool to kind of relive my childhood, and now, instead of a 2D flat thing that jumps up and down, it's a full 3D version, right? So it's cool. And then the fact that, it's like a timeless like character, like my kids now they want Mario backpacks and, stuff that I wanted when I was a kid. It's kind of cool to kind of relive my childhood through them with some of the same stuff. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
But yeah, so no, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, next time I'll beat you at Mario Kart if you want.
Hey, I'm down. Let's do it. I used to play a lot on the Wii.
Oh, yeah.
With the wheel, remember that?
Oh,
or did you have that or no?
Yep. I didn't like that as much as the remote, but that's just the 90s kid in me.
I messed up my Nintendo 64. I threw it like like in those aquariums, like aquariums that you can have at home, where you can buy like little rocks and like fake plants and stuff.
Is that because you got mad and lost and threw it?
I actually don't remember. All I remember is I put like a little rock into the cart, where the game slot would go into. I threw a rock in there and no more Nintendo 64.
Oh man, you just gotta blow in the cassette.
Oh, I do remember that. I do remember having to do that.
Awesome. Well, I hope our followers had as much fun as we did, just going back and forth. And again, kind of to recap this episode is like, the repetition is key in life and in business and stuff you're going after, and consistency and discipline, man. Those are some of the key factors, and tied to failure, not being afraid to fail. So anything else to add to kind of recap the episode?
Yeah, no, I love how this episode kind of molded into that conversation of repetition and consistency. And, it is something that's hard. Everyone deals with it, whether they're at a very highly successful level or not. But it is something that, try to like focus on being consistent all the time, whatever it is that you're doing, and just understand it's going to take its time. Everything worth it takes time, right? So I know that was something that for me, getting into the whole entrepreneurial side of things, is like being okay with like being patient, trusting the process. That's an affirmation we say all the time. And I don't know I actually pulled that affirmation from the 76ers, Philadelphia 76ers basketball team. They had it as their Twitter bio. I don't know if they came up with it, but as soon as I saw it, I just kept always saying it.
And they didn't stay consistent, and then they split. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. that's another topic for another day, right? But yeah, just understanding that everything is going to take its time. It was hard for me at first, I know. Being patient, especially being Gen Z, like wanting instant gratification, wanting things like quickly, with TikTok and all that stuff, 10-second videos. Now, like, apparently 5-minute videos is too long. So that's kind of like what the world is shaping into. But just being okay with knowing you're going to fail and also seeking that mentorship, seeking that help from others in other industries. You know, we watched Gary Keller's podcast, Think Like a CEO, for one of our team events there. And he just talked about, like, also look at other industries and what they're doing in those other spaces, because, you know, something that they're doing in a different industry, maybe you can apply that to your industry. So that's just, like we always say, like, continue to grow, continue to learn.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, this is another one of those episodes you'll see on YouTube. And again, having lots of fun. Shout out to all our followers out there. Give us a like, comment if you took a little nugget away from this. And we're excited to kind of see you on the next one. Anything else to finish it off?
Yeah, no, let us know down below if you guys do enjoy the, you know, like Junior mentioned, this type of episode. We'll see if we'll do more and more of it, but we do have some guests lined up that we're super excited about getting on here and continuing to share their stories and sharing Junior and I's story as well, if that's what you guys want. So thank you for supporting once again. Make sure you do like and follow us over at Filling Ads Up Podcast. That's going to be our handle for Instagram and also Facebook. Check it out on YouTube. Subscribe if you are new. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for tuning in with us on this episode of Failing Adds Up. Till next time.